going on, everybody? Today's a big day for the contest. We got a new update with this fresh looking loading screen. Like, whoa, is that a spine that's on fire and that's being used as a weapon? Okay, I am immediately sold on Purgatory. This champion is completely badass. How can I get Purgatory? That's so cool, man. In this update, we've got some other new toys to play with and other things to look at. We've got 3 buffed champions here, as per usual lately, in War Machine, Ultron, and Ebony Maw. And I was really looking forward to testing out all of these champions today when the update went live. But mentally, man, my mind it's just been kind of a different place. I just don't really have the desire to test these champions after seeing this other new message that we got. This is about the upcoming Scarlet Sigil update. Well, if you guys haven't read this yet, let me read just part of it to you guys. It says a new Scarlet Witch champion is joining the contest. Hype! Exclusively through the Summoner Sigil. Oh. Isn't the Summoner Sigil that's a paid for thing, right? Yeah. Going forward, the original champion will be known as Scarlet Witch Classic. Starting on June 7th, summoners will be able to enjoy additional benefits when activating the Summoner Sigil. These new benefits include activating the Summoner Sigil through purchase will grant 1 4-star Scarlet Witch, with additional purchases giving you additional copies of the champion. Sigil credits will be added to the Summoner Sigil weekly solo event milestone rewards and can be spent on exclusive items in the Black ISO Market Store. Sigil credit quantities vary based on story milestone completion, which... whoa, that's kind of a big deal too. That sounds like an entire side event quest that's just now going to be exclusive to the Sigil as well. All summoners can trade in Sigil credits to obtain 4-star Scarlet Witch. Those who are Conqueror by completing Act 4 can get the 5-star version, and uncollected players can get the 6-star version, which is crazy to me because, man, uncollected players are going to have access to getting an exclusive 6-star Scarlet Witch just by picking up the Summoner Sigil. Wow. It's going to take a little bit longer for uncollected players because the amount of Sigil credits, the new currency that you're going to be able to earn through this Sigil side event quest, basically, it varies based on story progression, so it will take a little bit longer for the uncollected players, but the fact that uncollected players are now going to have access to that 6-star Scarlet Witch, especially when the game is trying to push players more in that direction. They said in the roadmaps that they're going to make it an easier journey to get uncollected in the future with updates to the earlier acts and maybe some other things to help out as well. So yeah, that sounds kind of wild to me. The last little part that I want to read out here says this will be the only way to obtain Scarlet Witch for at least 6 months. After that, you can look forward to some rare opportunities to obtain her, which will be announced at a later date. Just looking at that last little blurb there, I mean, that's nice that it is not going to be 100% paywalled champion, the same way that, Deadpool is. And it actually kind of sounds oddly similar to the experience of obtaining new champions today anyway, where it's extremely difficult to get a champion early on, and then after 6 months when they're added to the basic pool, with 200 champions in the game, it's a pretty rare chance to pull the champion regardless. But of course, with this champion being available in the Sigil, those rare opportunities that they mention here, I think they're going to be far more rare than just pulling a champ out of a crystal. I have a feeling it's going to be similar to ways that we can target champions like Gold Pool, or maybe it'll be extremely low drop rate in the Greater Gifting Crystals, or maybe for completing a Legends run or something like that. Who knows? So yeah, the Sigil is getting buffed quite a bit. And the question kind of comes to mind, first and foremost, is, does this cross the line? And I truthfully don't know the answer to that question. I mean, everyone has a little bit of a different line when it comes to what is available for purchase in any game. I think MCOC has been set up in such a way that, Kabam has been able to cross that line compared to other games, and players just accept it. And we just kind of understand that, yeah, that's the way this game works. You get a heavy advantage for spending, but there's also really good progression for players who don't spend. And players who don't spend can complete all the content in this game, absolutely. But as time goes on, the divide feels like it's becoming larger and larger. You know, I was a pretty big fan of the original Sigil, which I remember being a pretty controversial opinion at the time. But let's go take a look at the actual Sigil now. And I'll explain why it feels so different. The old Sigil versus what was coming in the new Sigil here. So the old Sigil, we have this Test of the Thronebreaker event, or whatever your progression title is. The Black ISO Market, the increased inventory, the Test of the Cavalier event, which I think they're just marketing that twice. You could earn extra gold in the Golden Circle quest. You have faster recharging quest energy, you gain a title, and some XP boost. So all of these things, people weren't such a fan of because these are largely quality of life changes that, you know, Kabam could have just changed for players for free. The increased inventory cap, for example, and in some ways it's more than just quality of life changes. People are always looking for more ways to get gold, and Kabam is kind of just, you know, they're selling it here, which, you know, in some games I totally agree, and I hate stuff like this, but in MCOC, I don't feel different in this game, and I'm just looking for like competitive versus non-competitive advantages, I guess. And I want to see Kabam sell more non-competitive advantages. And you could argue, yeah, like all this stuff is a competitive advantage. These 5 units you get, yeah, this is 5 more units than someone who's not spending is getting, of course. But there's nothing here for me that crossed the line. The increased inventory cap, for example. Okay, you can just manage your resources better. Even though there are some competitive advantages, like players being able to hold a higher number of Alliance War boosts, especially during the off season, you could try to, you know, fill up. I think they get access to 7 in total compared to not having the Sigil. We have 5. So in the off season, you try to stockpile as many as possible, and then go into the season, you get to boost more than a player without the Sigil. So yeah, it's a competitive advantage, but at the same time, you know, you can manage those things through just, you know, kind of outplaying your opponent, you know, studying the matches a little bit more, practicing a little bit more, things like that. So to me, it didn't cross the line as a competitive advantage. Whereas the new Sigil, I mean, you're getting access to a whole new champion. And although the Test of the Thronebreaker, it in itself is a little bit like a side quest here, it's a small one compared to gaining an entire new currency that you can now trade in for other items. To me, that feels different than if we look at the Black ISO market right now. In many ways, you're getting a little bit of a discount, but you still have to trade in your own resources. That's why I think it feels different for me. You still have to trade in your own resources here, where now you're just getting an entire new resource to spend in the store. And really, you could make the argument that currencies, in many ways, they're just cosmetic anyway. When you think about the real world even, and we have, you know, the US dollar versus the Canadian dollar, euro, pound, cryptocurrencies, all of it is just some way to store value to then trade that value in for some other type of value. So what does it matter whether you're trading in one catalyst for another type of catalyst, or we're getting some exclusive currency here for the Sigil? Competitively, maybe it doesn't matter that much, but it certainly feels different, man. When you have a currency that is strictly premium, you know, like units, they've always been considered the premium currency in MCOC, but it's something that you can earn. You can earn it at a much slower rate, but you could earn it. With the Black ISO market here and the Sigil currency, no, it is strictly premium. And it makes it feel, at least, like we're now going to have an MCOC free version and a premium version. MCOC Lite and MCOC Premium. And part of the reason why I like free-to-play games, or at least when free-to-play games handle these systems correctly, is because it brings people together. You know, I've played games where there is no spending advantage, and maybe someone's watching this video thinking like, well, why don't you just play those games, dude? Why don't you like those games? You know, in those games, the people I talk to, they're a lot like me. You know, if you're more like a more hardcore player or something like that, then yeah, your real life is going to look a little bit different than someone who maybe doesn't spend as much time in games. And the deeper you get in those games, the deeper you progress, you do find players that are a little bit more similar to me. And while that's cool, talking to people who may have similar interests that you have, I think it's a lot more interesting when you talk to people who just come from totally different perspectives in life. And you can't really find that in too many different areas of in the worlds. You know, if you have so much money that you have a boat, you might be part of a yacht club or something like that. Whereas somebody who is, you know, a college dropout and doesn't really have a desire to make a whole lot of money, like those interactions, they just don't happen. It's not that one group thinks they're better than another group, or maybe sometimes they do, I don't know. But the bottom line is you just don't really have a way to interact in the world. Whereas in MCOC, dude, we're all just players of this game. We're brought together by this commonality, by this common interest. And then you have systems like this where they introduce this premium currency, and it does feel like a little bit of a divide. You know, it does feel like instead of one group maybe just having more of a particular resource than another, or maybe just a higher cap or something like that, this is something totally new. This is an entire different currency. So, does it actually provide a huge competitive advantage? Maybe not. But it certainly feels different than other advantages in this game. And going forward, who knows, man? This is not going to be... I can almost guarantee that this is not going to be the only reason to get this new currency. Is to get a, you know, exclusive champion. We're about to get this new relic system. Does that mean there's going to be an exclusive relic that you can only get with this new currency? What else is there going to be? It just kind of sucks, man. It really does put a bad taste in my mouth to introduce things like this for the Sigil. Especially when the pros of the Sigil, what I was considering, what I was hoping for there to be pros of the Sigil, like it never came to light, I guess. So I'm not so naive to think that companies aren't trying to make like as much money as possible. Of course, companies are like, it's a business. They're trying to make as much money as possible when making this game. But there are other games out there where they're not trying to make all the money in the world. They're just trying to make enough money. They're trying to make enough money to justify the time investment, the risk in making a game, because who knows how players are going to take to it. And you also want to make enough money that it not only covers your current project, but it also covers the next project. Because again, who knows how that's going to go. So you need to make a lot of money. You need to have a way to make a lot of money off of the game that's being made. But there's still a pretty big difference in making a lot of money versus making all the money, versus making as much money as humanly possible. And of course, again, I'm not so naive to think that Kabam wouldn't try to make all the money in the world, but it's just disappointing to see. And I was hoping that they would, in finding more ways to make money in a non-competitive way, my hope was that they didn't have to make as much money in the competitive ways, and that it could bring the players a little bit closer together at least. But that didn't come true. Instead, it feels like they're just kind of doubling down on everything and finding more ways to sell competitive advantages while also selling the non-competitive advantages, and it didn't help that balance in any way. Sure, we have some more SIG stones available through non-spending ways, but when you look at something like Cyber Weekend, there was still 25 SIG stones available for free-to-play players compared to however many there were if you spent a little bit. And I feel like that's just going to continue as we approach, 4th of July. And when you look at the crystals that we had available, it seems like every big sale is from this point forward going to offer class-based Nexus crystals, where if you look at the newest content in the game right now, which is 7.2, you know, we're still getting the regular Nexus crystals, which you know, is now a 6 times difference between a regular Nexus crystal and a class Nexus crystal if you're shooting for one particular champion or a small group of champions, which, you know, that again increases their sig levels if you're targeting a champ that you already have. It's the divide's only becoming larger, and I don't know how much longer, if these trends continue, I don't know how much longer it'll be possible to play this game without spending, at least if you're trying to play this game in any sort of competitive way. And it feels like this is once again just, you know, another way to divide those players, and it just sucks. Like, I don't know how else to say it, man. It's still new, so I don't know exactly how to best put my thoughts into words, but that's how I feel about the upcoming Scarlet Sigil update. Like with any of these opinion-based videos, it's not just my opinion that matters, it's all of our opinions. So, you know, express how you guys feel about something like this. I'm sure there's going to be some people that are psyched because this is going to be a much easier way to target a champion versus the normal means, and I'm sure there's going to be a lot of people that feel similar to how I feel as well. So yeah, man, just put all that stuff in the comments, and share it with Kabam as well. You know, if you can, take the time, go over to the forums, let them know how you feel. Ultimately, it's up to Kabam. They're the ones that have the control over the current game and the future of MCOC. But there is a lot of power just in our voices, and, you know, for as much crap as I can sometimes give to Kabam, I do give them a lot of credit for listening to player feedback. I think we've seen a lot of changes based on player feedback. So, you know, just try to share as much feedback as you can in a controlled manner. You know, try not to let the emotions take over. But yeah, man, that'll do it for this video. Thank you all very much for watching, and I'll see you in the next one. Take care.